So Friday night, Gene and I went on a date. And I tend to be the one that arranges where we go. Most of the time, 99.9%. And so we went and we saw the musical or the play Janis Joplin. And I can remember I was part of that time when Janis was doing the thing, was at Woodstock, was partying, was doing all of that. And Janis always prided herself as a singer of the blues. And in the play, they had 4 other women who sang as well, who represented other people that sang the blues. And the blues were unbelievable what they sang. But if you watched and you listened to Janis and you listened to the story of when she first started and when she died, she kept singing the blues. And what is the blues all about? The blueness of life, the tragedy of life, how life doesn't work, the pain of life. And if your whole life is centered in that focus, what are you going to track back into your life? The blues. I want you to know that I'm not here to teach you the blues. I'm here to teach you rock and roll, baby. I'm here to get you juiced, inspired, and to live with passion. So we're going into lesson number 4 of the series that we've got about the basics behind science of mind. Because I'm really going back to the basics of what we teach so that you can really get grounded in what is the beneath principle that we've got behind our teaching. And so I started with this at the very first week. I'm going to go again. The study of the science mind is the study of first cause, the study of spirit, the study of mind, the study of the invisible essence, the study of the ultimate stuff, and the study of the intelligence from which all things comes, or the study of the power within. That's what we're here about. There is an infinite power, an infinite presence radiating through all things and is expressing itself as all things. And yet in all things there is that power within. It is a natural law. It's like the law of gravity, the electricity. I used this morning. I think it's a great example. Socrates was alive, smartest human being on the planet at the time. He didn't know what electricity was. So he couldn't use electricity. But electricity existed when he was alive. That's really the critical thing here, is that this law, this creative power is right now with us. It's always been with us. It's responding to the nature of our thought all the time, whether we know it or not. And so what are our lives in general? Our lives in general are unconscious creations, or they're the law of averages, as I like to call it. Meaning that whatever your average frequency is, based on the thoughts you're having, you're going to have that experience in your life. Well, I want you to know you weren't brought here to be average. You were brought here to be unique. And so it's up time now for you to claim that uniqueness. So nature waits on, and I've got man's there because Ernest said man's, but it's about humankind. So please put that aside because we're all one. We just happen to be expressing. The interesting thing about that is every man has female qualities. Every woman has man qualities. It just so happens that there were a couple little things that were different chromosomes that happened, and one of us developed this, and one of us developed that. And this and that make life good. I thought I'd do a little Seinfeld there for you. It just made me feel good. Whether or not you got a kick out of it, I certainly did. So I'm always about the this and the that. Anyway, since humans are intelligent, let's think about this. Since humans are intelligent, they must have evolved from intelligent cause. So if you think about the aspect, we are intelligent, we came from something. If we are intelligent, then where we came from must have been intelligent as well. Does that make sense? I'm walking through a very logical journey. If humans are endowed with the attributes of self-choice and free will, they must be left alone and allowed to make the discovery for themselves. Does that make sense? So if you have free choice and you have the attributes of free will, you cannot be forced awareness. You must be given the opportunity to uncover your awareness on your own. And so if you look at the planet right now, the planet is expressing in infinite ways all over the ballpark, right? Because everyone has free will and free choice. And you can't take that away. Life waits upon our discovery of these natural laws. Our discovery of ourselves and our discovery with our relationship with the whole. And you can't separate those two. You cannot separate the discovery of yourself and the discovery of your relationship with the whole. They're like this. They can't be separated. We're one. And so to understand yourself, you have to understand that, yes, you are unique. Yes, you are individualized. Yes, you are perfect. Yes, you are whole. But you are also a part of the greater. I like to say this, and I've used this example many times, is that each of us is a wave. Unique, whole, and perfect as we are. We're just going like this. Some of us are big waves and surfers are on us. Some are little waves and people are boogie board on us. Some of us are just flat waves right now and people have got their air mattresses out. They're just lying on us, you know. They're all good waves. But underneath, there's the ocean. There's the infinite. And that's where we're connected. We forget it. We think of ourselves as only the wave, and not that we're part of the ocean. And you see, it is the unity of that thought that we are both the wave and we are the ocean that gives us the power, because as a wave, we may be powerful, but if we are the whole ocean, how powerful are we? And see, the part of us that is the ocean is the same law. We're using the same law that created the cosmos. So we're looking at how did this natural law that created the cosmos, how does that work through us? That's what this journey is about exploring. The first great discovery that humans made was that they could think. The second humans got the idea that they could think, that they were not like animals, where animals are instinctual. Now, I want you to know that all of you respond most of the time through instinct. Do you get that? Most of the time you're responding through instinct because we haven't yet embraced the fact that we're not that. We have habits of thought that are instinctual that we go by, and they may not be serving where we are. We have a habit of thought where we bitch and moan, don't we? We got a habit of thought where we complain. We got a habit of thought where we talk about other people in a non-positive way. We got a habit of thought that if we've got a pain or something, we haven't gone to the bathroom, we got to share it with our neighbor to let them know. If you go to an assisted living center, like where my father is right now, all you hear about are the meds, the side effects, and the bodily function habits going on that they're not living good. And so when they're talking about that, what do you think's happening in their lives? They have more bodily function problems. It's disgusting. I have most respect for caregivers, because caregivers deal with the things that I'm going to choose never to deal with. I want you to know that. So I bless them and honor them that their gift is the bodily functions. When humans first said, I am, they became individuals, and now they had to make all progress on their own. See, there was a time in our evolution that we were instinctually guided, and then gradually we evolved the mind to think, and the second that mind evolved to think and it could say, I am, then there was no longer the need for the instinctual, because now with the I am ability, we can now think the I am, and if we think it clearly and often enough and persistent and consistent, the I am becomes who you are, and that's what you attract. Okay? From this moment, there was no longer any compulsory evolution, and humans now had to recognize that the basis from which they were evolving was infinite. This is real critical. The second you could say, I am, you had the ability to put anything you want after the I am. You were not limited by the I am. I am a sinner. If you buy that, you need to schedule a private session with me because we've got work to do. Because you are not a sinner. Because sin simply is this. It means missing the mark. It's an archery term. And we've confused it. It's been taken that you're bad, that you've disobeyed rules. Well, what rules? Who set rules? Well, the Bible set rules. It did it. It set rules. Who wrote the Bible? Man wrote the Bible. The Romans wrote the Bible in 325 AD. They took all these books, they wrote it, they combined their paganism with this Christian movement that was going on, with all sorts of other movements. They combined it all into one thing because Rome was losing control of the empire, and they knew that if they had a religion, they could bring the empire back under it. So they created this Bible, they created this whole idea, and then they said, you either believe this or you will die. Ooh. I want you to know now, if you don't believe this, you will die. I own you now, don't I? If I get you to believe that, I own you. Think about that. That's how humans were. They didn't think beyond the box. They blindly bought into whatever was thrown at them. But you see, we've evolved, and the idea of what we've evolved into, it could not have happened in anywhere else in the world than in the United States. It had to wait until the specific time, which was the early 1900s. And that's when this whole thought process of new thought started to happen, because there was freedom in this country. There was the ability to express individually. You could do it. Even though you may feel you're in the Bible Belt, you can still express anywhere you want. And here's what I'm going to tell you. This was really evident to me the other day, Thursday. I was at the Chamber of Commerce. I'm at the Chamber of Commerce in Frisco. If I'm in town, I'm at the Chamber that morning. And I get up and I do my message. And there were two other ministers. There's two Christian ministers. There was a new Christian minister there. He's been working for a year to start his church. Had his first service last week, had 276 people in there. And I watched the talk. It was all about fear. It was all about fear. That if you don't take this, then you will not have that. Can you imagine that you are an infinite expression of love and that love would judge you? Love doesn't judge. Did you get that? Love accepts, gives you free will, and there is a law that you are using. That law gives you the result of your thoughts. So there's no judgment. If you go do something, there's a natural consequence. It's the law working. So it's not like you're being punished. It's just automatic. So the law can change at any time. That's the beauty of the law. The law changes as you shift your mental idea. You shift where you want to focus. The day when humans discovered it, it was not the brain that does the thinking, because if the brain was thinking, it would keep thinking if it was removed from the body. So this thing inside of us is not doing the thinking, because the brain can be taken out. There's no more. So there's something outside of the brain and the body. We call that mind. It could be your soul. The soul is that aspect. I like to use the word soul that's the definition of that aspect of who you are that still knows its oneness with God all the time. It knows its oneness. So that soul uses the brain and creates life experience. This observation proved that there must be something behind the brain, and it used it as an instrument, ergo the mind. Now there's also ego, and ego tries to keep us separate from mind. Ego wants us to think that we're still separate. And ego has a place. Ego does protect us, so it's okay. But who's controlling your ego? Is it ego controlling you, or is it your mind controlling ego? That's really the question we want to ask. I think that this was the greatest discovery of time, for it meant that without the body, the thinker could not function. Here, humankind discovered its power. So I want to go further now. Humans found that they could consciously think, and their conscious thought impacted their body. Okay? Conscious thought impacted their body. They then discerned that something had to happen to the thoughts that they consciously thought after they thought them, right? Ergo, what happens? Memory then is the storehouse of all ideas that have passed from the conscious mind, right? So we've got conscious thought. They all go into this other bucket on the computer, this file cabinet, and we call that file cabinet memory. So we got two files out there. We've got conscious thought, we've got memory. Once it goes from conscious thought, it's only there for a short period and immediately goes into memory. Got it? So then, memory is active in that these thoughts come back to us. So what we put in that file called memory, they're playing in the background of everything we're doing. They're forming a habit of, it's an operating system underneath. Your habits of thought are what you're naturally thinking all the time, and you don't even know that you're thinking that. And that's what's controlling your life. Because it's 95% of what you think. Of the 60,000 thoughts you're having a day, 55,000 of those are the unconscious repeating itself over and over again. And that's what's happening. The unconscious is always repeating. It's always repeating until you stop. That's why we meditate. You stop. That's why we do prayer, affirmations, gratitude, visualization, because now we're creating a new thought to put in the memory. We're creating a new habit of thinking to put in the memory so that those thoughts are running unconsciously now instead of the old thoughts. So to neutralize the old thoughts, we use the word forgiveness. Forgiveness just means to be able to look at it, see that life was and still is always in balance. And if it's in balance, then we see both the yin and the yang, the good and the bad of whatever happened. And when we see both the good and the bad, then it no longer has an emotional charge. When it has no emotional charge, it no longer owns us. But if there is an emotional charge about a person, an event in your life, and it's negative, it owns you because it's playing underneath all the time, over and over and over. Whew. And that takes work to uncover that and to replace it. That's why spiritual practice is a daily thing. Because you want to be in control. You want to take time in your day so that you are consciously feeding what's going into your brain so that you can build a new habit of thought. Memory of itself is an unconscious operation of what once was conscious thought. We've already covered that. It was then discovered that by changing the thoughts, a human could remold their affairs and then by new thinking could bring new conditions in your life. You see, that goes with the freedom and self-choice, doesn't it? The freedom and free choice, you've got that so you can remold. The mold is like your thought atmosphere. Whatever you're putting into your thought atmosphere, you create this mold. And then the power that creates the universe takes that mold and brings it to your experience. But you're doing the mold, it's like, the best way to describe it is a sculptor. Sculptor gets a great big rock of whatever, marble rock. And then what it does is it gets an image of what it wants, and then it takes a chisel, and little piece by little piece, it chisels away everything that is not the image. That's what you're trying to do with your life. You're looking at what is my mental atmosphere, and you're chiseling away everything that is not your image by putting a new image into law. There are two aspects of mind, the conscious and the unconscious, and together they control the conditions of your life, or what I like to say, they become your mental atmosphere. Your mental atmosphere is the sum total of all your thoughts, and that is what attracting to you and repelling from you. And a mental atmosphere is not just what you're thinking. It's what you're thinking, it's what you're feeling, it's what you're speaking, and it's what you're doing. It's all four of them. You cannot separate them. You can't be thinking it, speaking it, and feeling it and have a demonstration if you're not acting it. You can't have one of the pieces missing. And probably if I were to say which piece is the one that's always the most missing and is the most important, is you got to feel it. You really got to feel it. And what we've been taught is to block our heart. We've been taught to block our feelings because what? People will hurt you. If you don't hide, people will hurt you. No one can hurt you. The only time someone hurts you is if you give them permission to. And you give them permission by you taking in what they say and you giving it more weight than what you say. And if you knew that you were infinite, why would you ever give anyone else more power than what you have? Why would you allow them to put their dirt in your mind? Think about that. Because it's a hard lesson to learn. Because there's a lot of dirt out there. And we've been taught it. It's not only have we been taught it, but it's in the collective consciousness of everywhere you are that you have to care what other people think. Think about that. You have to care what other people think. You got to give it up. You've got to find out who you are and be authentically you, and you cannot care what other people think. Because if you're authentically you, you're going to be real, you're going to be kind, you're going to be giving, and that's all that you can possibly give. Anything other than that is an unrealistic expectation of yourself, and it's going to lead you into a depression, it's going to lead you into disease, it's going to lead you into a life of misery. A lot of times people say, well, Reverend Lee, I can't do that, I'm an empath. And you know, there's nothing wrong with being empathetic. It's nothing wrong with understanding where someone else is. But don't absorb their feelings. What good does that do? It's like, observe that person's uncomfortable that they've taken poison. But you don't go take the poison yourself. That doesn't make any sense. No, what you do is you go get them a bunch of water, fill them with water, detoxify the poison. You become the light and you show your goodness, you show your light, your uniqueness, your acceptance into that, and you become an example to them by giving them hope to raise their consciousness to the level you are instead of you lowering your consciousness and you both drown. It then became logical that if we change our thoughts, we can change our mental atmosphere, we can change our life experience. It's all we talk about. It's all we talk about at Agape, year in, year out, week in, week out, day in, day out, conversation in, conversation out. The power is in us. And when you change that consciousness, you own your world. And when you own your world, the world is a great place to be. Because it's a world that you have created. Let's go within.
I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask that you go to our website, agapecsl.com. Once there, click on the donate button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. Or if you would like, text your gift by simply dialing 972-532-6976. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to you and the world. I would ask that if you like this message, to please subscribe to my YouTube channel under my name, Lee Wolak. Again, I want to thank you for joining me in the Agape community as we learn how to better self-love through conscious living.